Hey, what's going on, guys? So it is that time of the year again. It is convention time. If you are like me, you love a good video game convention. It's a good time to get out and bond with the community, maybe buy some cool games, maybe some cool merch, or just see some stuff that maybe you wouldn't normally see. Now, I wanted to give you guys kind of my tips to really get the most out of video game conventions. So without further ado, let's kind of jump into it. I do want to say I'm sorry that my voice sounds kind of weird. It's like allergy season and it totally has hit me pretty hard, but I'm feeling fine. I just sound kind of weird. Anyway, without further ado, let's get into how can you maximize your trip to video game conventions. Now I'm going to split this video kind of into a couple parts. What to do before the convention, what to do during the convention, and then some tips on, getting good games, getting good prices, and basically just how to do it, how to have a good time. So I really want to cover everything in case you've never been to a game convention before, because if you haven't, it could be very, very overwhelming. There's a lot of people at these things and a lot of stuff going on. So without further ado, let's start off with what to do before the convention. Now, I'm going to start with something, it's going to sound maybe kind of funny or like a joke, but this is really the most important thing. If you get one thing from this video, please God, take this from the video. Hygiene. Like, for real, hygiene. Wear deodorant. Number one, deodorant. Put it on. In fact, I'm not even going to lie to you. I actually sometimes bring a small little bar of deodorant and keep it in my backpack because you're there all day, maybe you're sweating or whatever, it might be good to reapply. And man, if you have been to a game convention, sometimes you walk past someone and it is rank and you just don't want to deal with that. And there's a ton of people. So it's just something you really need to be wary of. Hey, take a shower, be clean, get your hair clean, get a nice haircut, trim up your beard, look presentable. You're probably not going to find the love of your life at a game convention, but you don't want to, you might, I don't know, but you don't want to look like you're not trying in life either. Just general hygiene. Like I said, it seems silly. It seems silly that I even need to say it, but just clean yourself up, wear some deodorant, and be mindful that other people are going to smell bad. So just be a little careful about that. But yeah, you really just need to be clean and you need to be ready to go for a long day. Now I want to talk about what to wear. Stuff that I always like to have, typically these conventions are indoors, usually during the summer. I try to wear some comfortable shoes or comfortable footwear because you're going to be walking a lot. Most people will say get some nice sports shoes with inserts or insoles or something. I'm personally very flat-footed, so comfortable to me is actually flip-flops, which is I know not normal. But everyone needs to wear some comfortable footwear. I personally like to wear shorts because, like you said, you're gonna be walking around a lot. And a t-shirt. However, sometimes I do like to bring a light hoodie, something I can take off easily, because sometimes it might be cold, especially if you're going into a panel room or something. You just want to be careful, but you don't want to wear stuff where you limit yourself, because I'm telling you, a lot of people, you're going to get really hot, you're going to sweat most of the time, especially if you're walking around a whole lot, you're experiencing the full day. So it's nice to have a light jacket, maybe some layers, but personally, I'm comfortable footwear and shorts are definitely the way to go. Another thing you're gonna want is a backpack or a bag of some kind, but not something that's cumbersome to carry. You're gonna be buying merch, you're gonna be buying games. You might have some stuff that you brought with you for trade. You just want to have some place to conveniently keep that, just without being a bother. But do know that when you go in through security, they're usually gonna check your bag. In fact, I've never not had them check my bag, so obviously don't bring anything stupid, but you just be wary that you will be a little bit longer to get in typically with a bag, but I'm telling you, it's worth it. You're gonna need it. Now, another question I always get all the time is what days should I go to a convention? Usually conventions are Saturday, Sunday, sometimes Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but usually it's just Saturday, Sunday. And what times and when do I get there? Now, there's a very easy answer, which is, look at the schedule, and if there's stuff that interests you, maybe certain panels, maybe certain guest stars, maybe certain events, obviously go during those times. But if you're going there for a strict purpose, i.e. maybe just game buying, if you're interested in just buying video games, that's kind of a little bit more sticky, right? Because a convention's only so big. They're gonna be big, but they're only so big. So it's you're going to see a bunch of stuff. I mean, if you're only buying games, it might be good just to go on Saturday, as a for instance. However, that being said, some of the best deals come at the very end when people are trying to pack up and not bring stuff back with them. But you really can't go wrong with any approach. Like I say, the best option is to really just look at the schedule and see what interests you and go on those days. Me personally, I typically only go for a Saturday show because usually I have to drive down there and I have to drive back. For me, I mean, if it's local, I'll go multiple days. But if it's something I'm taking a trip for, usually I'll just do the main Saturday thing. And now when to arrive. This is a little bit different for everyone. So I've become a little bit spoiled in the sense that for some conventions, not all, for some conventions, I am actually considered a guest because of my YouTube channel. Maybe I have a panel or something. In those cases, I get to get in early sometimes. So, I can say if you have a friend who is in that position, that's when you want to go. You want to go with them and sneak in early. But for everyone else in the world, there's two things you want to be mindful of. One, do they have the option to buy tickets ahead of time? And if so, then you want to do that. You want to buy the tickets ahead of time because there's going to be two lines. There's going to be the pre-registered line where you go in, you get your ticket, you've already pre-bought it, and there's going to be the waited line to buy a ticket line, and that's going to take forever. They're both going to be long, especially on the first day, but getting your ticket is key. So let's say that a convention opens at 10 a.m. I mean, you might want to get there 30 minutes to an hour, maybe 45 minutes early, just because that line's going to already be started. And you want to get in there, and especially if you're deal hunting, you're going to want to get in there and get the deals. But if you're really there for a more casual time and you're there for specifically tournaments or people or panels, then it really doesn't matter. Just get there when you want to get there. But, keep in mind that you're definitely going to want to eat beforehand. Typically, go ahead and have a nice breakfast, get some energy in you. And then, other stuff to bring, I will say, bring a bottle of water. Have a bottle of water with you because, one, you don't need all the sugary drinks all day, drinking Cokes and stuff. It's not going to be good for you. But just have a bottle of water just to hydrate. Everyone should be hydrating anyway, but you're going to be walking around a lot. And for a lot of people, you're probably going to be walking around a lot more than you used to walking around because time gets away from you. Next thing you know, you've been walking for 5 hours straight and you're like, damn, I'm winded. And hydration is key. So, make sure that you get some good food and have some water with you beforehand. Try to get there a little early, make sure you get in line, and definitely pre-buy your tickets. So now you're at the convention, and what kind of stuff do you need to be wary of? You're in the door, you've gotten through. You really, I can't emphasize this enough. You need to check your etiquette. And by that, I mean, there's awkward situations that happen and you're with a big group of people, you might be really excited, but be wary of your surroundings. There's a lot of kids at conventions. You don't want to be using a lot of curse words, willy-nilly. I cuss all the time. I cuss like a sailor. But, you really want to be mindful. Little kids around. You don't want to be that guy. You really want to be respectful and polite to vendors and other people. Be aware of your surroundings. I mean, don't, watch out. You might bump into someone. Just be careful. Make sure you just act right. Don't act a fool. Another thing, and I hate that I would have to say this, but I've seen this at conventions. There are going to be a lot of people cosplaying. And there's going to be some great cosplay. There's going to be some questionable cosplay. But there's going to be people dressed to the nines, really fantastic. There's going to be people dressed very revealing. Be respectful, be nice. Now, a lot of cosplayers, they are really excited to show off what they have done, and a lot of them are willing and want to take pictures and have conversations. In those situations, though, just don't be weird about it, right? Just come say, hey, I really love your Mario cosplay. It looks great. Give a compliment, be nice. Don't be weird and creepy about it. And then if you do want to take a picture or something, ask them, hey, would you mind if I took a picture with you? This looks so cool. I really want to show this off. And I'm telling you, 9 times out of 10, they're going to be so excited. But just like I said, don't be weird about it. It's so easy to get caught up in the emotions of the hustle and bustle. But like I said, it's one of those things where I've seen the bad side of people acting a fool, and just don't be that guy, don't be that girl. It's always strange. But once again, just really be careful of your surroundings. Look around you, kind of catch the vibe. don't be weird, don't be rude, just be really nice, courteous, and respectful. Another thing I want to bring up, and I don't really know how to explain this other than just saying, like, don't show out. I know that sounds weird, and I feel like I shouldn't have to say this, but I remember once I was at this convention, and there's like the big convention hall, and there's like an outside hallway, and then all of a sudden there's these two guys. I don't know why, but they had like lightsabers, and they started doing this weird choreographed like lightsaber battle. It looked kind of neat, I guess, but it was weird because they weren't part of the convention. They weren't part of any troupe or show or anything, and they were just kind of doing this weird thing. And then one of them ended up accidentally hitting a girl with a sword, and it caused a big stir, a big ruckus. I mean, hey, I guess trying to show off your lightsaber fighting is cool, I guess. I don't know, but it was weird, and just don't do that. Don't be that person. That's just weird. It's very strange. So, like I said, it's hard to quantify this kind of tip, but I guess just don't show out and be strange. It's not don't be strange. That seems rude to say, but you know what I mean? Like, don't do anything like just really awkwardly weird like that, especially at the detriment of other guests. Now you're in the convention, what kind of stuff is there to do that isn't game related? And trust me, I'm getting to the game soon, but what kind of stuff is there to do? What can you expect? There's a lot of stuff. It's going to vary convention to convention, but there's a lot of stuff to do that's really cool. Sometimes there's booths that, rather than selling stuff, are more history related. Maybe people bringing in like a whole bunch of computers or classic game systems for you to test out and try. It could be all sorts of things. You never really know. Sometimes there are guests. There are guests that'll sign, autographs or take pictures, depending on how big the convention is. They could be very famous, could be famous voice actors for anime or other things. Other things to check out, definitely the panels, especially if I'm in a panel, you're going to want to see that. But, panels are always fun, always cool, give you a cool perspective. Look at the list of panels, see what interests you, plan ahead of time. A lot of times there's a free arcade. I love a good free arcade, depending on the convention. There's been some really great free arcades that I've seen in the past. Some really cool stuff, multiplayer, maybe pinball. It's always good to see. Sometimes there's live music, sometimes there's bands. Sometimes there's events, there's like shows. I remember one, I think it's Too Many Games. They had like a professional wrestling match with a local wrestling troupe, and they all dressed as video game characters. Nothing like seeing Mario jump off the top ropes and slam, Mega Man and Donkey Kong. It's always crazy, but be on the lookout for all sorts of different stuff to check out. Another thing you're going to want to keep in mind is the food situation. A lot of times they're at a convention center and they'll have food at the convention center, but it might be worth your time to look around, maybe like a 5-mile radius, and see if there's something a little better. I've never personally gotten anything good from a convention hall. It's usually like an old hot dog or like microwave pizza. Find something, Chick-fil-A, right? Like, Chick-fil-A is always good. You can't go wrong with that. And there's Chick-fil-A everywhere. Stuff like that is definitely something you want to look out for as well. But, there's all sorts of stuff to do, like I said, besides buying games. So don't be, so, like, focused on just video game buying, because you never know what you'll miss. I remember one time I had no idea that I was going to enter a Street Fighter tournament, and I got, like, 4th place in this whole tournament. It was free to join. It was really cool. It was a shame that I was one rank away from a medal, but still, you never know what you're going to find. So always be aware of what's going on. Look at the schedule. Another thing that's included with some conventions, depending on the convention, is raffles. Usually it'll be like you buy your ticket to get in and you get like a raffle ticket as well. Make sure to use that raffle ticket and make sure to be aware of when the raffle's being called, because, hey, you might win. And sometimes the prizes are pretty cool. And now, shopping. Of course, this is probably what a lot of people are going to watch the video for. My tips and tricks about shopping. I do want to start off with, before I jump straight into video games, which is what everyone's going to want to know about, there's some other stuff you really need to be aware of with conventions. There's always a lot of, the first thing, I always like to show this off in my convention videos. It's very important to me to get this kind of stuff out there. Look at the homemade stuff. There are people who really pour their heart and soul into drawing art, making little dioramas, making pins, all sorts of stuff. I love to support the local artists, the mom and pop style shops, the people who have an Etsy store. always just check that stuff out, and you never know what you'll get. I've gotten custom controllers. I've bought really great pins. I remember one time I have some friends who are really into D&D, and they had a soap set that was based on like your race, class, and like something else, Dungeons and Dragons related. It was really cool. It's just really neat gifts like that, gifts for friends. Always be checking that kind of stuff out. Other cool stuff that's maybe not official but still neat is usually there are people who make like glassware or custom shirts based on video game stuff. I got a really cool Sega shirt, Neo Geo shirt. Granted, they're just a screen printed shirt, but you know, it's one of those things where they have them for $20 each. And just like anything, and I'll make sure to really double down on this in the video game portion of the shopping section of this video, is, you know, pretty much prices are always negotiable. I mean, you can go in and say they have t-shirts for, you know, $15 each. You say, hey man, you know, what if instead of $30, what about 25 for two? Or, you know, work a deal. I mean, you know, worst they can say is no, right? Just it's worth giving it a try, because you never know what you're gonna find, and sometimes you'll get some really cool stuff. And like I said, sometimes you get a really cool deal. But definitely support the local stuff, the local people. But then comes the video games. Now, conventions have awesome opportunities, but also they have some pitfalls when it comes to buying video games. You really want to be aware of a couple things. You really want to be aware of prices. So first, before we get into their prices, let's talk about your prices. What are you willing to spend? Never spend more than you're willing to spend. I like to go in with a budget. I like to personally bring cash. It used to be cash was king. Now with PayPal and Venmo, you kind of lose a little bit of bargaining power, because it used to be like, hey man, I got $20. That's all I got, you know. And you could score a deal sometimes, and you still can. It's just less likely to happen. And some places still do hold fast to the cash is king thing. Like I said, it's just not quite what it was. But the reason I like bringing cash is it gives me a limit. It gives me a target of what not to go over. Let's say that I'm going to be at a convention and I want some rare games, and maybe I have a target or two that I'm really looking for, and I know what that price is. I'll make sure to bring enough money to cover that. But, I try to just set a number, like, I don't know, $200. Bring $200, have it in 20s, 10s, 5s, 1s, a little bit of everything. Don't bring like $200 bills, because, you can't haggle with that. But, try to have a lot of bills and try to have it in a way that you can really kind of, utilize that to maybe work a deal, maybe try to catch a deal. Also, trade bait. Bring some good trade stuff. If you have some games that maybe you don't care about much anymore, or maybe it's a game that has a high value and just isn't worth it to you as that value, bring it and try to trade it into something. But that's what I'm saying, back to where I started with this. Know your values. Know the values of your games, and realize that you're not going to get 100% most of the time. Sometimes you might, but also know the values of what you're buying. When you're going into a situation and you see some guys have a game and say it's $60 and you're like, oh man, that sounds great, and you give them $60, nothing's worse than checking price charting or checking sold listings on eBay and finding out that it's $40. I've actually had a story, and let me preface the story by, I never normally do this and I don't recommend doing this, but in this case, the guy was kind of a jerk. This guy had a game, I think it was one of the Suikoden games, but he had it for overpriced. He had it over eBay price. And by over eBay price, I mean like I had it on eBay, a buy it now version, complete, was cheaper. And I told the guys like, hey, this is it's not worth this much money. I can get it on eBay for this much money, And normally I don't bring that up, but you do need to let them know that you don't think it's worth what they were wanting or what have you, and try to make a deal. Anyway, in this particular case, the guy basically said, if you want it, get it on eBay. So I had it on my phone. I said, okay, and just press buy it now. And like I said, I don't recommend doing that. It's kind of rude. But this guy was kind of being a jerk about it. The thing you need to realize, though, is they have to pay for booths. So when they're paying for a booth, they're trying to make money. But in general, the prices should be at least equal to eBay prices, because eBay, they take out a cut, and then there's usually shipping and all this kind of stuff. So like, yes, they do have to pay for the booths and the space, but you should be catching a little bit of a deal. And that's one thing you need to look out for. is the deals, right? So, you know, sometimes there'll be a guy who maybe goes out flea markets all year round and then just goes to conventions and sells. And just to move product, this is the guy who puts everything $10 below price. That's the guy you want to find. You want to find him early. You definitely, if you're in for game shopping, you want to go early, and you really want to keep your eyes out, and you want to see as much as possible. You want to do a couple laps. You want to basically do a lap of the convention center and try to find some stuff that jumps out real quick. But when you see certain things, keep it in mind if it's something that you're maybe not ready to jump on now, but also be willing to miss something, because you know, you see something and you're like, maybe I hold out on this, it might not be there when you come back. So you really got to be careful about that. Now, another thing that you definitely want to do that you've probably heard of before from different shows or YouTube channels, a tried and true strategy is bundling. But I do want to put a twist on bundling. Obviously, you can get a better deal if you're like, hey, what if I get these 5 games? But something you need to keep in mind, especially if you're going with friends, bundle with your friends and then work out the money later. So let's say that there's, you know, you have a game that's worth $60. Your buddy has a game that you want, he has for $60, and you know, grab both games, go up to the guy and go, hey man, I'll give you 100 for both. And, you know, don't give them time to think about it. Now, yeah, and then just give them the $100. Then you get with your friend and, you know, have him give you 50 back or whatever, and split it up, you know. So bundling's the way to go. Leverage your friends. Try to get bigger bundles with more people, because you're going to have a lot of success in those cases. One thing you really need to be also mindful of is don't get suckered into something. If you see something you really like and the value just isn't there, or maybe they're the only guys selling it and you really want it, like I said, know your limit. You know, it's like in eBay when you are bidding on something, it comes down to the last 5 minutes and you're willing to spend $50, and all of a sudden you're like 51, and then some other guy's like 52, and then and all of a sudden you spent like $65, and you're like, why did I just spend 15 over for this? Don't get suckered in. Don't see something and jump at it just because it's there, because just because it's there, you know, doesn't mean anything. That said though, depending on how rare the item is, it might be worth it. So it's kind of a fine line to walk. Sometimes there's weird stuff that you'll never see anywhere else. I have a lot of items that are like that I've only seen at conventions, but still obviously be mindful of the price and just don't get suckered into spending more than you need to or more than you mean to. And the last thing I want to talk about with buying games and stuff at a convention and basically just spending money is non-game related stuff. And I guess related is the wrong word. Non-game stuff. And by that, I mean just not video games. There's other stuff, I guess is what I'm getting at. Some of the coolest stuff I have in my collection, I have gotten from conventions. I got the Onimusha Katana PS2 controller sword. I don't know if you've ever seen this thing before, but it's literally a PS2 controller that is a sword. It's like a motion controller sword for Onimusha 3. And check this out. I got it brand new, complete in box. I don't even know what it goes for, but it's one of those things where I bought it at the end of a convention. The girl who had it did not want to take it home with her, and she sold it to me for $40. I mean, like, that's rare. That's like a very crazy scenario, but you know, that's something that happens. Other things I have that are weird in my collection, some rare consoles I've found at conventions, really rare controllers. Like last year I got the yellow Dreamcast controller at a convention. I'd never seen one in my life. First time I ever saw one, I knew I had to jump on it. I had the money, and man, I'm glad I did, because I've never seen one since. So stuff like that you really want to just check out. I've gotten all sorts of weird stuff. I've gotten console cases, like I said, rare controllers, cool pins, rare memorabilia, like legitimate like shirts from like Nintendo Power and stuff. There's all sorts of stuff that isn't an actual video game that could be of interest for your collection. A lot of advertisements, a lot of signs, all sorts of neat stuff. So keep an open mind and definitely look for some of that kind of stuff when you're shopping, because like I said, you never know what you're going to find. Now, one more tip I want to give, and this is a real gambler's tip. I've kind of mentioned it a little bit here and there. If you are there for both days, always kind of be the last one at the convention. Look at the guys who are packing up, see what they have, and try to work that last minute deal. That last, like, hey man, you don't want to take that home deal. Sometimes you'll get lucky. Sometimes maybe that item that you've been looking at the whole convention never sold. You really lucked out. and now's the time to pounce on it. Maybe get $5, $10, $20 off. You never know, depending on the item, depending on the price. Some people really are just trying to not take a bunch of junk home, and that's really when you want to take advantage. But that's kind of my tips for buying stuff at conventions. But now we want to talk about, what do you do after a convention? So after a convention, there's all sorts of things you're going to want to do. Of course, you're going to want to share, post all your cool stuff you got. If you got social medias or a good friend group, send them some pictures, put it on Instagram, tag the convention, because it makes them get more popular, headline kind of stuff. Maybe more people come next year. But share your good times, share your fun. Another thing I really like to do is any friends you have going with you, or any friends that you made along the way during the days, go out and have dinner and just talk about the fun. I mean, me getting invited to conventions once in a while, we always do a big dinner with all the creators, all the vendors, all the stuff, and it's always a great time. I can't recommend enough just really kind of wrapping up the day with good friends and getting together and just having a blast. But hey, that's my tips for convention going. Like I said, it is the convention season. I hope to see you guys around. I'm actually going to be going to my first convention this weekend. If you're watching this video when it comes out, it's a Korgs. It's a convention in Ohio, Columbus, Ohio. I've never been before. I'm not going as a guest. I'm just going as a person. So if you happen to be in that area and I see you, that'd be awesome. But let me know what conventions you guys are planning on going to, and also put in the comments down below any tips you might have for conventions, especially since right now it's the convention season. We're coming out of a pandemic, right? A lot of people have maybe never been to one before. It's really cool to share what you guys know, and I would like to learn. I know others would too. So I look forward to reading your stuff down below.